Las Vegas. On the opening night of the Stanley Cup Final, the entertainment capital of the world did not disappoint. Neither did the hockey. There was splash and noise, and bass so loud it made your chest hurt, and that was before Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final began at T-Mobile area in the least likely of hockey settings. And then came a crazy un-Stanley-Cup-like hockey game, full of speed and frenzy and intensity and mistakes and more speed and more mistakes. It was something to see, to witness, to be part of this piece of hockey history. This game so scattered and frenetic, with the Vegas Golden Knights scoring first, then the Washington Capitals scoring 2, then the Golden Knights 2, then Washington, then Vegas, with 4 lead changes in 3 periods and hardly a moment to digest all that was going on. The story of the expansion team in the Stanley Cup Final was all but pushed aside on this wild night of playoff hockey, with Vegas holding on for a 6-4 victory, an improbable beginning to a most improbable championship final. Vegas MAGIC NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman is anything but apologetic to the rest of the NHL about the first-year success of the Golden Knights. In fact, he's rather delighted by it. "This is the magic of sports," said the commissioner at his annual State of the League address. "Anything can happen. And if you look at our game in particular, because anything can happen, you have hope. That's what we try to give all of our fans, no matter who you root for every season. It's how Colorado can change its finish by 47 points in 1 year. It's how Colorado and New Jersey can make the playoffs from being last in their conference. There have been droughts in other sports, some of them going over 100 years. That's part of the emotion, the intrigue. It's what makes sports special, and the beauty of sports is there's always next season." Game 1 notes Bettman hasn't changed his rather myopic view of the connection between hockey and the brain injury, CTE. When asked if Bettman had changed his view on CTE and hockey, Bill Daly answered, "This is not the commissioner's view. This is the science view. Depends whose science you accept." Vegas had not allowed a first-period goal against in the playoffs at home until Game 1 Monday night. Washington scored twice in the first period, 43 seconds apart. The dead puck era is over. This was frenetic hockey, back, forth, mistake-filled, in front of a rather frenetic crowd. At the end of the first period, Gladys Knight, without any pips, sang "God Bless America" on Memorial Day in the U.S. Legendary boxing announcer Michael Buffer was brought in Monday night to do his typical "Let's get ready to rumble" shtick in announcing the night's starting lineups. It was schlocky, the way Buffer always is, but this town lives for schlock. Bettman on the wonky state of the Ottawa Senators, they're not for sale, and more note a zone of the real surprises for the Capitals this playoffs has been Tom Wilson, the rather large winger for Washington. The physical stuff is expected from Wilson, some of it challenging the rules. What hasn't been expected? Wilson has 4 goals and 9 assists in the playoffs. He's never had more than 35 points in a season. Another surprise about Wilson, aside from taking penalties in the postseason, he's drawn 9 penalties in 3 rounds. Wilson's third-period blindside hit on Jonathan Marchessault sent Marchessault crashing to the ice and the game officials to lengthy meeting. A penalty should have been called. After the fact, the officials called both Wilson and David Perron for minors, Wilson, for interference, Perron for cross-checking. When Washington management tried to avoid losing defenseman Nate Schmidt in the expansion draft, they asked Vegas to make them a proposal on a deal. One of the players the Golden Knights asked for was Wilson. No deal was made. The Caps have 7 players on their roster with more than 10 playoff points to date. Vegas has just 3, their first line of Marchessault, William Karlsson and Riley Smith. How long has it been since Washington has been in the Stanley Cup Final? The only time they made it, in 1997-98, their coach was former Leafs boss, Ron Wilson. The Capitals were swept by Detroit that season. Brendan Shanahan was a Red Wing back then. Not everything has gone perfect for the George McPhee management team. At the NHL trade deadline, McPhee gave up 3 draft picks, a first, a second and a third, for Detroit winger Tomas Tatar. Tatar hasn't found a place with Vegas. He was again a healthy scratch for Game 1. This is unusual. Brad Hunter, a scratch for Vegas in this Cup Final, was a scratch last year for Nashville in the Cup Final. On draft day, Pittsburgh GM Jimmy Rutherford gave up a first-round pick to St. Louis for bulky winger Ryan Reeves. The reason? He wanted to better protect Sidney Crosby. Reeves didn't last the season with the Penguins. In February, the Pens traded Reeves to Vegas for a lot less than they paid to get him. Reeves tied the game in the third period, after cross-checking John Carlson, then scoring from in front. Probably should have been a penalty. Simmons at postmedia.com, twitter.com/SimmonsSteve.